My name is Charles Duo Muridi. Um, I was born in Kiambu County, and but I've bred in Mombasa County. Yes. Currently, I'm a music trainer. Um, Currently, I'm in Kivukoni School and Kivukoni School in Kilifi and Oshwal and Braiban. So I just change in between those schools, training the students how to play various instruments and also play music and worship in ICC Mombasa International Christian Center. Yes, I just like everything that's involved in music. I think that's about it.
I'm Beverly Mumbo. Born in Nyeri, raised in Nairobi. I work and live in Mombasa. I've been here for the past 6 years. I'm a lawyer, a human rights lawyer, a women's human rights lawyer. I write. I have a blog, beverlymumbo.com. Check it out. And what else? What do I like to do? I like to listen to music. I read a lot. I read anything except the newspaper. And I love to sleep. So yeah, that's basically me.
So that's what you do during your free time?
Yes, if I was not here, I'd be sleeping or reading and listening to music. Like there always has to be music in the background for me, except when I'm sleeping. But generally, music does it for me. So all the time, I'm always listening to music, even at work.
So can you sing?
Yes, I can actually hold a tune.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I can.
Chalo has taken note. Alright, so tell us why we are here. Why do we have that background? It says raise the standard. Just
we're here to talk about making a change within the society. The position we are at can always be made better. Like you'll never reach a point anywhere, whether it's at work or in life, you'll never get to a point and say, okay, sasa nimefika, I'm fine. There's always room for improvement. And what we are trying to do is create or force that improvement to take place, trigger the improvement to take place. So that's why we're here. And we're here to talk about a subject that I really enjoy, very passionate about, gender. And we're going to be biased to reproductive health. Touchy topic, but very wide and very necessary. So really, just as a background, reproductive health is extremely wide, as I've said. It does not only talk about contraceptives and access to abortion. No, it talks about menstrual health, it talks about maternal mortality, it talks about gender-based violence and access to the necessary services. So all these things, in my perspective, affect how society grows, and most especially for women. If you do not take care of a woman's reproductive needs, or you don't take care about their reproductive rights, then you're destining them to fail. You're already putting them at a lower vantage point, because as already it is, we're not on equal footing. We should be on equal footing, but we are not. And our reproductive needs predispose us to more challenges in accessing services or amenities or things that we want, be it economic, political, social, just because we are women and we are designed to have a reproductive part in our lives. We need to address that so that we are kind of on equal footing and are able to access different things within the society equally. So that's what we are here to talk about today.
I think maybe the role comes with the father in just I've met ladies who I'm not sure about what happens in the informal sector. So where I usually come in and sort of ask questions, is I ask questions in the formal sector, whereby now we have the ladies, or rather the girls, didn't go through those injustices. Everything was fine. I'm talking about a girl that's born in 2019, 2020, whereby all this, the things that you say that are valid are not happening to her. That's usually my main question. Not to disagree, but to pose a question whereby after, when all that is achieved, what happens is that now the part of what you're saying is trying to find like a correct words to write them. Find the correct words that I did. Yeah. So it like when I was in primary school. Believe the time that I went, we didn't have. I went in primary school from 1998 to 2005. So you can guess my age from there. So, and I remember there's a time they came and talked to the girls, and then they left us in class, and I was in a school that was a modern school. Yeah, very modern school. So so as we were not explained to anything, and I believe 98, if you are living in Mombasa, it's a time when all the problems of injustices against the girls was not happening in town. So you see, I got to know some of these things when I went to high school. So and then you see now there are some boys who are not aware, and I think that still happens, whereby they come and talk to the girls, and then the guys are not engaged in any way. So I'm saying that because that happened to me, and so that is left for us. We don't really have an explanation on what.
We don't have a proper understanding
on what role that we play, and then so that in turn now during the school holidays, like during COVID, we had a lot of boys getting girls pregnant, and they didn't. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
A bit.
It does. Not even a bit, a lot, because you can see like the way society has grown us is that you can't talk about these things where guys are. These are conversations you have. It's like, go ask your mom, go ask your aunt. It's never like, go ask your dad. It's like, you see, that even makes it more of a women's issue, more of a girl's issue, while it should be a collective issue. Because if we all understand what is going on, then we don't have that curiosity. We don't have like moments where we'll have oopses and kind of such stuff. Then you're going to feel the need to be part of the solution. Of course, unless you have sisters who are vocal about these things, then you'll have an idea or two. But otherwise, actually guys are flying blind. Him actually saying it out loud, you know, when he says it out loud is when you realize, hiya, they genuinely, honestly just have no clue how to help us. They don't even know where to begin to help us. Yet to put the burden on them that they need to be more sensitive, and they don't know what they're being sensitive about. That's a wow moment for me. Like, yeah, that changes so many things. That changes a lot of things for me, because yes, I've seen it, but it just has never occurred to me that could be the beginning of a problem. Which brings me to the need for having adolescent-friendly reproductive health conversations in school and at home. Let's start from when kids are young, with talking about issues such as consent, talking about boundaries, and talking about them honestly and openly. The very difficult, extremely difficult conversations to have, embarrassing even, but like just trying to teach that concept when they're young, and like from a point at which they're able to understand things such as hugging. It's okay for you not to want auntie so and so to hug you. It's okay to not to want people hugging you around, because you're just setting boundaries. And then you come and talk about private parts. Give them the actual names. Don't give them pseudonyms, Ati, Dudu, and stuff. Don't, because then when a child is trying to explain a problem to somebody else and they use the name that you taught them, that is not universal, I may not be able to understand what is going on. I may not be able to understand what they're saying. And in cases where, God forbid, it ends up being a sexual violence case and they have to go to court and give evidence, and they name these body parts in the name the parent taught them, they may not have proved their case beyond reasonable doubt that this person actually caused harm towards them. So it's important to have these conversations in school. And just as he rightly points out, they were left out of it, so they don't know how to help girls. They don't know that this is a normal thing. Don't laugh at a girl when she stains her dress. Help her. Try and give her a sweater or something. Don't make her feel bad about things that are happening. I don't know if you guys heard about it. There's a girl who committed suicide because the teacher made fun of her for staining her dress. These are things that happen. Our bodies, women's bodies, are just so special. They operate the way they want when they want. So you may actually have not be anticipating to receive your menstruation on that day, and it shows up in its full glory, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't hide it. So having conversations and having sessions such as those in schools would really help. And also having menstruation products within the school. Do you know there are girls who cannot afford to have a sanitary towel? Even if they can afford, maybe let's say they can afford one packet a month, it may not be enough. So they end up having to stay in, keeping that one pad the entire day. They're susceptible to septic shock, they're susceptible to infections. It's just a mess. Personally, when I'm going through a messes, I have cravings, I have backaches, my body is aching, I'm just in a bad mood. Then imagine somebody having to think about, where am I going to get pads for my next cycle? Tomorrow, the flow this month is heavy, where am I going to get more pads? That is something that you really shouldn't have to think about, especially at such a young age. Like when people start menstruating from ages between 9 and 12, yeah. So you're thinking about, oh my God, where am I going to get these pads? Then on your way home or your way to school, because parents are working, maybe you have a boda guy assigned to pick you, or the school bus conductor, whatever, and it's like, hey, why are you looking so sad today? Then you're like, oh, I need a few things. Then it now becomes like a transactional situation. I'll buy you these things that you need in exchange for sex. You end up being pregnant, teenage pregnancy. Then the entire community turns and blames you for being in that situation that you are in. Meanwhile, it was a transaction for you. For you, it was a transaction. It is something you really needed. At home, unfortunately, they can't provide it, because if you come in from a family where it can be provided for, it's privilege, which we accept that not everyone has, then you wouldn't be a victim of such a situation. So you end up having an unplanned pregnancy. You're a teenager, you get pregnant, you're already coming from an informal settlement. If you come from a formal settlement, then you have more options, yeah? You can transfer schools, there's somebody who's going to take care of the child. If you come from an informal settlement, you're stuck with your child. So you have two options. You either procure an unsafe abortion and die, or procure the unsafe abortion and survive. If you survive the abortion, there's always that stigma that can, because what travels around within the community very fast, what travels around. So you're stuck in that position, or you're able to fight through and succeed in life somehow.
Or even your own
mental,
conscience.
Your own conscience does not allow you to be a full person, because you're constantly blaming yourself. There's no way you're sound enough to enjoy life and live life the way you want to live. But if you keep the child, you have to fend for this child. Chances of you going back to school are quite minimal. Who's going to look at? Yes, in Kenya. Yeah, I'm talking about Kenya, and I'm talking about the informal settlements, things that we actually see. And you know, the sad thing is that when you're sitting in the comfort of your home, in your estate, you have your nice things around you, you don't know what is going on beyond the fence. You don't know what's going on in that shanty area. You don't know what is going on in Kibera. You don't know what is going on in Likoni. You don't know what is going on in Kisoni and every other informal settlement area. You don't even know what is going on in your own village. When you get to your village, you get into your compound, and then you shut everything. We can't even blame it on anyone, because it's human nature. That's just the way we are designed. So this girl gets pregnant, and obviously the family cannot, unfortunately the family may not be able to support her and take her back to school. If she goes back to school, she has to think about, oh gosh, my baby, breastfeeding. The students are laughing at her, like, oneni yule ni mama. You know, the kids can be so mean, by the way. Students can be very, very mean. So she decides she's dropping out. She's already reduced her chances at employment, like good employment. She's going to end up having to be a casual laborer for that moment, because we do know that people's lives change. Anything can happen in people's lives change. But if she doesn't have that opportunity to access the privilege or the facilities that will make her change, she then revolves in that cycle of poverty. She already comes from poverty, and now she's stuck there, because she can only go so far in terms of employment. She can only go so far in terms of education. And the most unfortunate thing is that the system is designed to keep her that way, because that's how the system is. If you can't afford to go to a private school, you'll go to a public school. That public school will not necessarily provide you with same services that you need now in your new capacity. You're a mom, you're bound to be late for school because you had to take the child to daycare because the child was sick. You know, such kind of things. It will not be able to accommodate you and give you extra classes, give you specialized attention, tuition, and such kind of things. It's not going to do that. So the system is somehow already prepared, making it easy for you to fail rather than it is making it easier for you to succeed.
I'm willing to talk to my kids about that, and if I have, or when I'll have sons or daughters, I'll be particular about telling them to protect their seed. Yeah, it's where I think men don't know the value of seed, and I think that's, I don't know, according to me, that's a reason why some just go and getting children anyhow. So I think I will be particular and tell them you have to protect your seed, because I usually I'm of the view as when you say all, the world assumes innocence for all the ladies. Yes, so but there are those ones that are not good.
That's true.
So you say all, it is not all. Some. It's 7%. So there's that 17%. Yeah. So and there are guys who have found themselves quote unquote trapped. And I personally love two that if they had not known beforehand that you need to protect your seed as a man and not not just anyhow. I think they would have been more careful in how, I don't know if that makes sense, they interact with ladies, or how they view this whole sex and reproductive thing. So that will sort of minimize, because I don't remember anyone talking to me about the whole having children process when people have sex. Yeah, so, and I'm very sure some teenage boys don't know how that works, and once it's done, it changes everything, and there should be some sort of value, because the guys are not taught how to value children, but just that bringing a child, the seriousness in bringing a child. So it's usually it's assumed that the ladies are the nurturers and all that, so us we're just there. Yeah, so I think so I think just when from a young age the girls are told don't let anyone touch you anyhow, don't do this, don't let anyone do this and that. So I think the boys should be taught that it's very easy to bring another life, and the changes that happen to their body, they should be told to be careful. Because I remember there are stories of people being told when you touch a girl's hand, you'll get the girls are told you'll be pregnant. Yeah, so now the girls know the seriousness of pregnancy.
Yeah.
So the boys don't know the seriousness of pregnancy. Even me personally, I all these reproductive things, I got aware of them when I was a teenager. I don't know what I was doing from all that time, but what my mind was occupied with.
Just
but
sailing through life.
No, it was not even sailing. That topic was not brought.
It was not a
It
was
was like,
not
yeah, they
important.
really, you didn't need to think about it.
Yeah, so you do all the other things. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I was particular about men valuing their seed. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is that just as it is important for girls to have this reproductive health education and information, it is equally important for guys to be in that,
Yes.
to be in those conversations.
Yes.
I think it's KTN, or there's one of the radio, the TV stations ran a story on boys who had to now take up, be a father just from being teenagers. They got these girls pregnant and they had to marry them, they had to drop out of school. They just now, also for them, not only is the woman's life changing, the girl's life changing, but his life is also changing. But of course the feminist in me will say that women, it affects women a lot more. Yes, there are men who are affected, we do not even discredit that, but we acknowledge that we need to teach them. We need to have those actual conversations with them. That one for ukishika mkono kijana utakuwa na mimba nisikuone ukimwangalia, such kind of conversation. And the way kids are is like when you tell them not to touch something, that is when they touch it.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't pretend that these things are not happening. How society has been moving is that it's not happening, and the way people look at things, because it has not happened in my house, or I don't know somebody. Remember when COVID came, and then you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. If you don't, then you're like, yeah, that's an abstract thing, it doesn't happen to me. But we need to realize and recognize that teenagers nowadays are being affected by these issues. They're being affected by teenage pregnancies, they're getting sexually transmitted diseases, their mental, the moment you start engaging in sex at an early age, I don't think you remain the same. I don't think you remain. It just opens gateways to so many different things that at that age you're not prepared to handle. So when COVID happened and we had the increase in numbers of gender-based violence, and we were shocked at the number of teenage pregnancies, we acknowledged them, and then we went on to say girls should be careful. How exactly have we helped the situation? It's good for us to dissect what, like, the current situation, and let us have a post-mortem and find out exactly what is going on, what can we do. And I'm so happy that you've talked about men just not being aware. And they're not aware not because they're not interested, it's because they didn't know that they need to be aware. And even us as advocates of reproductive health, we clearly need to change our mindset and not be too focused on the girl, but see how we can rope in the guys to make a change. Because obviously as girls, we will not be able to change the situation alone. For me, we always have to have a collaborative effort. To change anything, you need a collaborative effort within the community. And in the community, we cannot work as women alone. If you don't have men who understand what we are trying to say and understand how what we are complaining about affects them, then we're not going to achieve anything. But the moment we rope them in, understand how what we are saying means to them, understanding their perspective of what it is. Like reproductive health now is when I'm like, when he's talking, is when I'm like, higher. Like there's a male side to reproductive health, because it's something I'd never thought about. Because nobody, when I say reproductive health, somebody is always already thinking girls, women. No one is thinking guys. So I really appreciate that you have put in that, open up the issue. Like, how come men don't like talking about these things?
Over to you.
Yeah, because like men don't like talking about these things. And how society works is when there's a problem, if you say that bedhe hii ni shida, then we pick it up. But if you're just like, yeah, somehow kind of is a problem, but oh well, like, yeah, I'll deal with these other problems, then we don't recognize, not that I'm blaming you, but yeah. And then I also have a question. Like, once you get to this age and you know what you know, do guys talk to each other about this thing? Because girls, as we talk about anything and everything, and we always ask each other questions, but do guys say, hey baby, you guys, do you know I discovered this and this and this, we really need to do this? Do you guys have such sessions?
Guys don't really talk about reproductive health. It's not, it doesn't happen as much. Maybe because the waitiness has not been identified. I think what guys are just told is protect yourself, and then it goes as much as that. Yeah, so it's not, we're not now told this and this.
And would you guys be interested in knowing like details? Not like the deep and gory details, but just general details that would help you navigate life as an informed person, that would help give you tools to assist a lady or a woman in your life.
That should be addressed, because like, even when the girls were being taught about that, I remember I just had to ask a girl, Kweni, what are you guys discussing about? Then now she had to explain to me. Then after that, no one else explained to me.
Did you ask?
Who?
Did you ask?
Did I ask?
Yeah, as like, did you find it necessary to ask?
You are 10 years old now. That will not disturb your mind. So me, I was just curious, mnafanya nini kwa meeting? So they were doing this, and then I'm like, okay, what happens? So that lady explained to me, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then ilishia hapo, and I moved on with my life. I think what should happen is people assume that men know what they should do. So it is a very big assumption that's made, and the ladies are told what they should do, what they should wear, how they should the dangers that happen in the world, many things, and girls even plan out their weddings at 10 years old. Plan out their weddings at 10 years old. So people assume that guys know what they should do, or rather boys know what they should do. So you find a very a large group of young men, or so you have this teenage boy, and everyone is assuming that he's now a teenager. He knows what he should do.
He has it figured out.
He has it figured out. So they assume. So mine is to now put that assumption away, and just the same way that the girls are advised on what they should do, or what happens, this and this, the guys should be advised as well. So I think the only advice that I got when I think from my culture, it used to happen during the circumcision ceremony. So where I come from, the circumcision ceremony is done as a group. So I was lucky that it was done as a group, and we got to stay in a house, and the older men were brought in, and some of these things were discussed, not as serious, but I think it was just discussed ile juju, and then I think the climax was nyama choma at the end of 1 week.
It always ends with food.
It always ends with food, but I know during those ceremonies was when men, I don't know if it still happens for when if boys are brought together and that is discussed, but that was discussed with me, not in depth, but ile tu juju tu. Yeah, so can't really remember what was talked about, so that can tell you ilikuwa
Juju.
Yeah, ilikuwa juju. So my whole point is assuming there's a lot of assumption, there's a lot of lost men, for lack of a better word, and what happens is they are told the big things, like they're told to take responsibility. So there people don't know what is to take responsibility. So it's just a blanket words. Sorry, my 844 English of cramming. Blanket words. On top words, kijuju words. Anyway, so it's just telling them some things that they assume that they know. So and so that as it's also advocated, because even when the advocacy happens, so some of the boys wonder, why is the this lady so angry? Connie, what have I done?
Into a very dangerous line of thought, so I'd want us to conclude.
I'm saying the angry of the as in when the guys see the advocacy happen, they're like, why are they angry? So of course it's the guys that have gone before that have done those things, but see now it is now assumed with these other men. Yeah, so it's that we stop assuming and mention the few things.
Be specific, like tear it apart and be very specific. We don't give blanket.
Don't be blanket in explaining to the young boys.
It's basically just having honest conversation, and being very realistic, because these are things that are happening. As if we don't talk about them, how do you expect somebody to fully understand a concept if you're not going to go into the detail and the nitty-gritty of that concept? Just giving a surface general information really doesn't do much. So clearly we need to adopt different advocacy styles. 1, men inclusion. 2, go into the details. And Yeah. Yeah, so it was a very interesting conversation, and my key take homes are we need to, yes, as a women's human rights advocate, as a reproductive health advocate, I clearly need to be creative in my advocacy style, definitely taking more men and more men involvement in the advocacy, not covering surface value, going deep into the detail, because we may be coming and trying to create awareness on something that you don't even understand the basics about. And it is so surprising that, you know, like probably the rationale of putting the boys out was that this is like a private conversation that really boys shouldn't have. But if it's something, you know, we don't live in a silo, we don't leave women alone, we don't leave men alone, we live in a society together. We should be able to understand what happened to each other. So yeah, take home is men involvement in advocacy. Don't have blanket conversations, talk it out piece by piece, no matter how uncomfortable it is, very uncomfortable situations, but we really need to just talk about them, because that's the only way we're able to make the society a better place for those of us living here now and the generations to come. So we shall be having a series of conversations. Join us in the next couple of weeks as we talk about gender and reproductive health.